Welcome back. Today is day 2 of the Greater Relationships work. Today we looked at a couple who had a lot of problems and went through some steps to try and alleviate that and get them to a better state of trust and fulfillment in each other's lives. So, it's possible, even if two people love each other very much, that intimacy can be lost through dishonesty. So, not being true to ourselves doesn't have to be lying directly, but even just not being true to ourselves can constitute such a fallacy. And we can't focus on solutions if we're focusing on the problem. And it's very easy to get mired down in what's wrong rather than figure what can we do to make things better. When couples are in conflict, they feel insignificant in relation to each other. It's one of the human needs, as we know, is significance. And if there's strife between two people, then it feels like you're not important. You can feel like you're not important to the other person. And so that might lead to the significant other going elsewhere in order to meet those needs. And if you're getting your needs elsewhere, then what are you to each other? So it's important to keep the foundation, get a foundation of trust, and understand each other's needs. There's 6 main questions to establish when trying to assess the efficacy of a relationship at any given time. For example, who is taking certainty and significance from where? Now, in the case of Paul and his wife, I can't remember her name, she was not getting certainty from him, so she would revert to getting it from her family. And that made him feel insignificant. And so his insignificance would manifest with threats. He would threaten to leave, and that made him feel powerful. And clearly, it's not a healthy arrangement. There's lots of problems there. How it's important to establish how the needs are being met elsewhere, if they are, because how else can you remedy the situation if you can't figure out where the disconnect is? So it's very important to understand what people's needs are, the order of priority of those needs, and establishing if indeed those needs are being met outside of the relationship. That's something that should be addressed. Interesting fact, there's, according to Tony Robbins, with these two, if you can meet 2 of the 6 needs, certainty, uncertainty, significance, connection, growth, and contribution, if you can find 2 of those properties in a partner, then it causes an attraction. If you can get 4 of those needs met, then it causes a strong bond. And if you can get 6 of those needs met, you'll never want to leave. How can the couple lay down their weapons? So for her, she would become defensive and use a very snappy, biting tone of humor and dominate conversations. And obviously, he was pretty stoic about it, but you could tell it was a source of conflict, source of strife for them. How can they meet the needs of each other? And that's really probably the most important one to establish. What could a partner do to meet your needs more regularly? A lot of people probably don't want to have that conversation, but feels like it's pretty important. Feels like it's pretty fundamental to a strong, healthy, evolving relationship. In terms of what weapons are, yeah, we already established biting humor can be a weapon. Passive aggression, violence in a worst case scenario. But none of those are conducive to finding a constructive solution to any of these problems. It's important to hold ourselves to high standards. The lady's sister, for one, she was a lot slimmer. She was a lot happier in her marriage. And Tony was able to discern that or assess that she has very high standards for herself, which her sister did not necessarily possess. And because of that, she was extracting more joy and had a more productive relationship with her husband. So high standards, that can lead to high rewards. It also is the same with diet, with exercise. The higher you hold yourself to a standard, the more you get out of it. So it's like no pain, no gain. Most people value love and certainty above all of the other requirements. However, the order is important. In her case, if she could have, she valued certainty above all else, but this made it very difficult for him to connect with her in a loving way. So simply adjusting the need for love allows everything else to fall in place with a lot more reliability. Honesty and vulnerability, that goes right along with laying down the weapons. I mean, how can you build anything if you can't tear anything down? So it's important to return to a basal form before rebuilding. Otherwise, it's pretty hard to rebuild a high rise without tearing it down. They don't really renovate well. You can't really redo the foundation with the building still standing. So I think that's a decent metaphor. People are less important to each other if they're getting their needs met elsewhere. We already talked about that. What is the relationship if you're not meeting each other's needs? So this is a pretty crucial realm to establish good solutions in. The secret is to know how to satisfy your partner's needs. So establishing what those needs are and then finding out how to service them is pretty much the crux of everything that was gone over today. There's 3 levels of a relationship, which I found interesting. The first one is where a relationship is doomed to fail quickly, and that's when each party is only concerned with their own needs. Level 2 relationship is where people start to barter for their needs. So you provide me this and I'll provide you that. And these relationships can last, but they'll never give a large feeling of fulfillment. The goal clearly is to make it to stage 3, where you truly put the needs of the other person first. And that's definitely something to strive for. And yes, that pretty much covers what was covered today. 6 months later, miraculously, they had a breakthrough, and they were very open about you can see it in their body language and their eyes. They'd definitely turned a corner, and hope that they can be good role models for other people interested in doing the same. Thank you very much. It has been a pleasure, and we'll see you again next time. Good night.